Hey there, Trailblazers. You know, one of the greatest things that we have open to us as we decide to use our difference to make a real change in the world is the fact that a lot of people are going to see our outer journey. They're going to see the accomplishments that we put together. They're going to see the events that we hold, the results and the impact of us choosing to show up and bring our unique gifts, talents, and strengths to the table. What most people don't get a chance to see is our inner journey. And it makes sense, right? A lot of times the things that are rewarded are people who just know what's going on, or people who follow the exact right path and haven't made any mistakes along the way. And quite frankly, from what I've seen with all the people that I've talked to, the real trailblazers, the real world changers out there, they're out there making mistakes and they're failing and they're continuing to move on top of that. And that's just the way that it goes when you're choosing to choose your own path, when you're choosing to make your own impact. And so I want to slow things down here by spending some time really exploring both the outer and the inner journey. The outer journey that we typically get a chance to see, and give way more space for the inner journey that comes along. And the reason for this, there's a book right now that it's really an audio program called The Hero's Two Journey. And I listened to it on Audible by a suggestion from someone. And they talk about, some of you may be familiar with the hero's journey, which talks about Joseph Campbell's journey. And from the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And typically when I hear people talk about that, they're usually talking about the outer journey that the hero has to go on, the initial embarkment on an adventure, a call to adventure, the trials and tribulations and the challenges and the guides and mentors along the way. But what made this interesting was that it actually talked about two journeys happening simultaneously. The outer journey, which we see, and then the inner journey, which is often the key to allowing the final victory on the outside world. So today, and actually just going forward, I just want to make sure that we slow down to see, who does the person need to become in order to create the external results? Who do you need to be on the inside? Who do you need to become on the inside in order to create the level of impact that you are uniquely here to do? And here goes a fun thing about all this here. For me, it's not about becoming someone else. It's not about taking on someone else's way of being or someone else's way of living. Instead, it's about the journey to become more you than you've ever been in your life. And using that and letting that fill you, fuel you, and free you to make your highest impact in the world. Today, we get a chance to spend some time with an outlier and trailblazer who's very near and dear to my heart. I get to spend some time with Dr. Erin Baker. We have known each other for quite a bit here. And Erin is someone who honestly takes me further on both my outer and my inner journey. She's someone who really helps me sink back into what is really important and also what is possible. But I think if I was just going to be really honest, one of my favorite things about Erin is that she also helps me look at the impossible, that which would be more difficult, that which would be living life at a level 10 and bringing out impact on that same level and beyond. So with that there, Erin, I like to really just bring you in here. Today is going to be just a wonderful conversation with the two of us here, and just give us a chance to really be in conversation. I want to explore more of your journey from outlier to trailblazer, your inner journey, along with all the outer things that you've created and are created. And then we'll just see where the conversation goes. Well, my thing is to be in service all throughout here. So my invitation is just come on and let's just catch up and connect. Good to have you here, Erin.
It's so good to be here. And I'm so honored to be a guest on your journey on this podcast. It's going to be an amazing thing for me to watch from the sidelines as you bring on more and more badasses and explore with them where they're going.
And that's the thing, my friend. You may not know this yet, but you're not on the sidelines. You're there. You're playing the game as well. You know, I feel like we're teammates. We each have our own different roles to play on the team, but we're all on the field right now. That's why we're having this conversation. You know,
Mhm.
I actually feel that the people that get a chance to watch this later on, they get to be a fly on the wall as to the magic that we create, as to how we go and do our thing. You know, so I'm really excited that we get to just keep playing together. You know, Aaron, I'm thinking back here. I would love to just like start off here with just a little bit of our journey together, how like we've grown together, and then get a little bit more specifically into you. But I just like the first I'm thinking back to my first memory of you, and that was at a Rich Liffin intensive about a year ago, I think. Um,
Yep.
and my first memory comes up with a red paper clip. That's where that's where it all starts with me. Um,
Yep.
do you remember that?
Oh, I've got the red paper clip in my wallet because someone traded me their red paper clip for a conversation. So I have a red paper clip to remind me every day to play and to play bigger.
Oh, awesome. And Outliers Trailblazers, just so you know, at the intensives, we were given a challenge to take a red paper clip and over a certain period of time, over our lunch period, see how we can go ahead and just trade in a game fashion to kind of continue to increase that along the way. Uh, for me, what stood out for me was just that element of play that came that like you bring to the table, Aaron. Like we went out as a group, like, and we just had fun. We just had
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
None
So
of this is worth it if we don't have fun. That's my philosophy. You know, some of the stuff we want to do, the impact we want to have on the world can be so heavy. And yet, if we can treat everything like play and like lightness, it keeps us fueled and us going when things feel like they're getting harder and harder.
yeah. Let's keep that element in this conversation here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so Aaron, we do a lot together here. I'm actually really curious. Honestly, I'm really curious about like your journey, right? Um, and I think I'd like to start this out here with a moment. I'm going to actually start it off here with a moment of success, right? For
Mm.
you here. I am curious as we talk through here around like some of the things that you did differently, you know, some of the things that were like just truly just like Aaron that most people may not have thought to either take on, or you know, that was just you and that led to a moment of like real success for you. Like, is there anything that comes to mind that's like distinctly you, or like you're just like, ah, that was just like freedom and
Mm.
the successes that came along with that?
Yeah. So this is completely unrelated to business, but
Yeah,
also completely related to business and
absolutely.
related to the inner journey. Um, so almost 2 years ago, I made a decision that was 10 years in the making to um, make my body more aligned with my internal sense of gender. And for many, many years, I felt this very strong andness in my body and in my gender identity of it's not that I'm not woman, not man, I'm both. And I play in the pool of the middle and go back and forth a little, but there's a strong andness. And there's a huge societal penalty to not fitting into these two boxes. Um, and you can think about those boxes in any way. Gender is just one of many dichotomies that we've created for ourselves in the world. And so I made the decision. It scared me. It scared the fuck out of me. I'm going to be honest here. It scared the fuck out of me to have my breasts removed and to make my body feel like an and. So my top side, very masculine. My body side, still the female I was born in. And the reason it's such a success for me, this is an internal journey, is that the minute I woke up from surgery, I felt more me than I've ever felt in my life. And I was able to move through the world with a different being, a different energy. I was able to embrace both sides of my gender. And those things come out in leadership. They come out in how you manage someone. They come out in the ways you think about your business. There's masculine ways to approach things and feminine ways to approach things. And so it's shifted my own internal sense of happiness, my living in my body, and so much of how I approach the world from a like, I'm different and I'm owning it and I feel good. And how can I take this and push that even further into other domains and other worlds? And how can I teach other people to do this for themselves, even if it's not a body removal or a body part removal?
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like a sense of freedom when like within me when you say that. I'm just like the elements of just be like being able to drop off that which is not, to remove that which is not, and just allow for more what is to simply exist. So Erin, there's a lot here that I would love to explore, especially in terms of like what you're doing business wise and how you're making your impact right now. I wonder if I love hearing this, like when you share this story right here, because it's like 2 years ago I made this decision, and like it's true. It's like I can feel how much you own it, and I feel how much you own it in life. I'm curious here around this, like this inner part here around that decision, because it feels like this decision happened 2 years ago, and up until that 2 years ago, I can imagine that there would have been some internal decisions. Some like you said that like there are penalties for not living inside of those two dichotomies. I want to make sure that like we don't just gloss over that, because I feel like there might be some outliers right now that are in that decision point of how do I get out of whatever those two choices, that the two ways I think I'm supposed to be in the world, and really find, I guess, that and that you were just talking about there. So can you take us a little bit into that part of your journey and how you were able to start navigating that decision?
Yeah, I spent so much of my life in fear, and I'm so boldly in the outlier to trailblazer category now, but the first 33 years of my life, my whole world was, how do I fit in? And there's a distinction between fitting in and belonging. And the more I tried to fit in, the less I belonged. The less I belonged to myself, the less I belonged to the tribes I was in. And at some point, the fear I kept thinking about it. I kept feeling it. I'd wake up every day and feel not at home in my body. And I'd play out these, well, this is what I want, but this is what society thinks is normal. And there's very real fears when I travel, especially to foreign countries. People think I'm a male, and restrooms are a problem. In places where I don't know the language, is really scary to try to say, hey, I'm allowed in this restroom. So my journey was this constant turmoil of who's more important, me or the societal norm? And for many years, the societal norm won. And it wasn't until I hired my first coach and we started just diving into all kinds of ways I was hiding. And in one way, I was hiding myself through my body. And so she just at some point asked me point blank, like, who's more important? And I could no longer say society. It was time. And there was a whole host of fears around, well, what if I do this and it's not the right thing? Okay, well, I could go back. There's augmentation, right? Or, there was the, what if I don't do it? What's the cost of inaction? And so when I started weighing it, the cost of inaction far outweighed the cost of acting and it being the wrong thing. So I've started using that framework actually in so much of my decision processes of what's the cost of inaction and what's the consequence of action and which one's greater. And so often the cost of inaction is greater.
Can you say that one more time, Erin? There, that's like a really interesting distinction. Like you could probably see my energy rising up with that. I'm like, huh. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. What's the cost of inaction and what are the consequences of action?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking us to that to that process there, and it's interesting there. I'll be curious, when you got your coach, did you come in and say, I'm looking to stop hiding? It seems like such an amazing transformation and such an amazing like element of really stepping into, you're like, I'm boldly this now, you know? But it doesn't seem like what someone might go into the experience thinking about. So tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely not. I hired my coach. First of all, I was very skeptical of the coaching industry, but I had shown up at an event for entrepreneurs, not even an entrepreneur at the time, showed up at an event and met this woman, and a year later decided to hire her because I saw her on Facebook. But basically I was transitioning. I had been working at Facebook for a while. I burned myself out, had a lot of stuff going on, and I was moving to a new role at Microsoft, and I had a month off. And during this month off, she had this free Reset Yourself for September program. And so I hired her because she had helped me figure out how to not burn out. So I went in with, I'm going to get coached on how to not burn out at my corporate job. And almost immediately, she took me deeper into what was really going on. And that started this journey around me and who I wanted to be, how I wanted to show up in the world, and ultimately led to me deciding to become a coach. I give her 100% credit for opening my eyes, my heart, my spirit to the beauty of this profession.
That's awesome. Thanks for that, Erin. Because I think there's just this level. I think about it myself too, because a lot of times I'm someone that like wants to get in and help people create, and I love the possibilities. And we'll talk about like being a trailblazer, and going out and making an impact. And we almost always start with that first level of like, who are you being? Are you actually making an impact on yourself? Are you actually aligned with who you are first and foremost? And are you free enough to be who you are so you can go out and make that kind of impact out in the world?
Mm-hmm.
So like this is fascinating to me, and I'm going to allow my curiosity to continue a little bit here. Take us up a little bit now,
Amazing.
though. Take us now into like current times, right? You made a decision there. Tell us more about like what's going on for you at this time in your life.
Yeah, so full-time, calling myself a coach, but I'm more than that. I think coach is a misnomer. And I am working with impact entrepreneurs and startup founders, people who are probably very similar to the people in your tribe, outliers to trailblazers, who are creating things in the world that make a difference. And they could be creating things that make a difference one-on-one, like coaches, or got people who are in service professions like physical therapy or whatnot, all the way up to, hey, I want to solve climate change and I want to do this through technology and I don't know how to do it. And it's a fun place for me to play in is, what does we even define impact as? Because so often we think impact has to be at scale. And yes, it can be at scale, but it can be one-on-one. And so I work a lot with people on their being and themselves and getting them to the place where they're ready to make that impact, whatever that impact looks like. Because you can have all the grandest plans in the world for what you want to do in this world. But if you're not ready to be in this world, you won't do it. So I do a lot of stuff with coaching. I do some events. I love being in person with people. There's just something just magical about different events. So I'm getting really creative about how to create some of the insights people need about their being through actual experience, tripping over the insights about themselves in process. So that's kind of what I'm up to in the world. And I'm up to how can I create magic? And what does that look like on a very tactical level and on a very philosophical level? So every day I kind of come at this of what am I creating today and for whom?
Hold that question. How can I create magic? And to bring that into your day each day. I mean, there's a reason why you and I are talking, right? It happens to be that like we're both really aligned with who it is that we want to serve, and how we choose to serve it. There's an element of you that is all about those experiences and finding ways to help people like be able to trip up all over it and but be with them that's really there. You've actually expanded my mind in terms of like what I can do with people, where I can take things here. So, and the other thing I see with you is that you're constantly trying new things. You're constantly out
Yeah.
there right now. I'm curious about some of the things that you're trying right now, and I'm also curious about some of like your biggest failures along the things, in terms of things that and I know that we are both coaches here, so we can reframe failures as however we want to reframe it. So in whatever the way failure feels to you, I think you know what I'm getting at here. I
Yeah.
want to make sure we
Yep.
talk about that, and then let's clear some space to create some magic, some more magic in this conversation.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah, I'm pretty good friends with failure, so yeah, I know what you mean as a coach. Um, and I will say, just sort of as I have a deep, deep belief that you can treat everything you do from a scientific perspective. I come from a scientific background. And so you say I try everything. I kind of come at it like, how can I go collect data? Let me go try this thing and see if it works. And okay, it doesn't work. Okay, let me go try this thing and see if it works. Okay, yeah, that worked. Let's keep going. And one of the things that a lot of people get worried about is if you do that, that you're kind of detached from your heart, you're detached from your emotions. And I strongly believe that you can be disappointed if something doesn't work out. You can also collect data on it. The place where it gets dangerous is when your failure then comes to mean something about you, or about why that thing didn't work. You know, I failed, I'm a failure, or that was a bad idea. Maybe it wasn't a bad idea, just for some reason didn't work. So yeah, I try a lot of things. So I'm in the process of thinking through all kinds of levels of different programs I want to do with people. I've got some collaborations I have a current client who's starting a business, and so I'm collaborating with her to help her launch her business into the wilderness world. She's doing wilderness experiences, so I'm creating magic currently in the desert of Texas, but hopefully in lots of other places in the world. I'm trying out different sort of high level programs for people who might want to take a sabbatical and do some adventuring while also going really deep into that being to figure out what their next level of impact is. I'm experimenting with social media because even though I do love this one-on-one impact, I have grander plans for impacting millions of people. So I'm playing with social media that I don't even understand, like LinkedIn right now, and very much detaching myself from any expectations of outcomes because I have no idea what I'm doing. But it's great. It's great to see more people engaging with me building my community. It's fun to be thinking about programs, thinking about who I want to collaborate with. I have about 5 different people in my head that I want to explore, like what magic we could create together for in-person events. So I'm having a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of failures. I fail every day. You know,
Erin, I'm going to pause you really quickly,
yeah,
because we will get to there has to be some
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
But I do want to just call out what did come to you right away, right? And
yeah,
just call it out for your journey. You're saying 2-3 years ago, you're just like you didn't even consider yourself an entrepreneur, you know. 2-3 years ago, you're like really heavily invested in other people's programs, and now you're out here you're making a one-on-one impact. You're like, okay, how can I take that even further? You're looking into collaborations with other people, and you're being intentional around it.
mm-hmm.
You're trying different things. You have different programs yourself. You're like, how can I create some more high level programs? Like, I just really want to just note really quickly a bit of where you've come in the last I'm going to just say the last 2 to 3 years here. Right.
Yeah,
And I we'll get into the failure part of it all because it just can't be necessarily a linear upward trajectory, or it could be, but I don't think it would give you the exponential experience that you're getting right now. And I know that
mm-hmm.
we both come from a tech background. And so it's interesting. I think about it a lot. It's like in tech where we are encouraged to fail fast through the technology and through the things that we're doing. But I feel sometimes when it comes to us as individuals, as an individual, am I failing? Am I a failure?
Yes,
You know, it's harder
Right.
to apply that same things back in here.
Yeah, it's the same idea. Just decide your business is the product or you're the product. It's all about how the product performs, not the self-worth of the product, right? There's no worth to that thing that you're testing. And I believe we're inherently worthy no matter what we do or not do. So I just separate them from myself. If I go put out a video on LinkedIn and nobody responds, it has nothing to do with me as a worthy human being. It might mean I need to figure out how to speak the language of my people, or maybe I posted it at the wrong time. You know, there's all kinds of other things about why that video didn't work that have nothing to do with how valuable I am. So
yeah, I get that a lot there. And I think that I I am feeling a real big pull to go and explore the magic and what it is that you can create, and to spend some time in service of that. And because I can feel it so strongly, I'm gonna play a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's easy for me to go into that mode there.
amazing.
I want to stick with the failure part here, and I'm comfortable with silence. Like there's no part of this thing that needs to be rushed, and I think that there's a lot of pressure to like always come off as looking good, even if it's like looking good by looking bad. So I want to give you some space around this here, but because when I experience you, and I think when people are experiencing you, like they can see all like you're just a badass. I think you use that word you brought into today's conversation. I love it, right? Um, you're a badass and you're taking things on and things like that. So I think it'd be really meaningful to actually slow down into a moment, one specific time where there was failure. And let's not, I don't know if that word has any power for you, right? So it might be more powerful for other people in terms of how they think, but for you, it may not be the thing. I think it might be, you know, regardless of if maybe it was even a success, but I'll be curious about like maybe your most painful experiment that you decided to test on. And it might have been painful in terms of the results. It might have been painful in terms of like the amount of stretch, or who you had to become, or who you had to let go in order to really step into that. But I'll be really curious about one of those kinds of experiments, one of those kinds of experiences for you along your journey over the last 2 to 3 years that has really helped shape things now, or maybe not. I'm just really curious about one of those moments, just to really touch in with you on that.
Yeah, there's probably failure associated, but something came to me very, very quickly. So one of the things I did in the summer of last year was I challenged myself to go live 90 days on Facebook. And it was confronting every fear that I have. And I considered it failure at the time every day because I had decided what failure was. So I pre-decided that I needed a certain number of people to like or comment on my video every day, or it was a failure. I had pre-decided that every one of the 90 videos had to be spectacular, or I was failing at it. I pre-decided that I had to have some life-changing insight along with that being spectacular. I decided I wasn't allowed to have a day where I missed it. So I was going live on weekends when nobody was watching. So I'm going to find another failure example, because this isn't one that feels spectacularly big, but it's important to the stretching of the comfort zone.
Yeah, let's stick with this right now, because feel free to stick with this right now, because there's some things in there that we can explore.
Yeah, the reason it was every day I wanted to quit, and I would have conversations with my wife about all the things that were happening, the fears I was having of my friends abandoning me, of looking like a fraud, of being full of shit about the things I was saying. Every day I felt like I was failing someone or something in what I was putting out. And then about 45 days in, I started to have fun and I let go. Part of it was noticing that none of my fears were coming true. So if I was losing friends, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
people who were supposed to be listening were listening. I started getting more intuitive about what I talked about and caring less about having it polished. And what came out of it was, I really like being on video. And I really think there's a longer term thing where people see my face. I'm not just the one-on-one coach on a Zoom call, but it required every ounce of my grit, of my tenacity, of my courage to continue going through that when every day felt, for whatever reason or another, like I was failing.
Awesome. Erin, we're going into this a little bit. I love this year. And like the thing about this year is that like, it's really simple here, right? But it's like, it was really difficult. And then by day 45, you were great. I'm so curious about day 13. I'm really curious about day 27. I'm really curious as to why like what you did between day 13 and day 27 that kept you going each day. 45 days is a month and a half of going on every single day, of predetermining that I need to have enough likes. It's of predetermining that like you need to be the most insightful person out there. People need to be getting things from that. It's 45 days of it. You talked about a 90-day challenge. 50% of it was you constantly thinking that like this might be a failure here, right? So like
miserable.
Okay. So like I want to spend a little bit of time in that miserableness here, right? Because like we don't see it. We look at it and like we just see like day 44 of 45 or of 90 and we're like, oh wow, she's still doing it. And then like there's a part where you're like, then you get into your own skin. Before you have the evidence that it's quote unquote working, or before you're able to get to your own level of like I think this is it. There must have been an inner journey that has gone along with the outer journey. And I'm missing some of the inner journey parts of it. I'm hearing some of the things that you had to deal with. Maybe you can take us to one particular day or one particular insight that you had, or one particular time where you said, I'm going to change something up or whatever it is. But just to help us like see what that inner journey is, because it feels outwardly, I'm with you. And I want to slow down into that.
Yeah. So one thing I changed, I started tracking all my likes because I had the scientist mentality. It's where it kind of backfired. The dark side of me had this spreadsheet with all the number of likes and comments, and the intention behind it was great. So that after 90 days, I would know what topics really resonated with people. And then I realized it was just making me insane because it had nothing to do with the topic. It could be the time of day. It could be the day of the week. It could be so many, like the algorithm. And so I was making meaning out of the feedback I got on these things. So one thing that just totally changed my journey was stop tracking and just show up. But I'd say the thing that really kept me going, I had two really big whys, and keeping myself on the why kept me every day. I would remind myself. So I'm sitting here and I would be agonizing over what the hell am I going to talk about today? I don't have a topic. I need to go live. I'd be going through my head. And then I'd remind myself, it's not about today. My why for doing the 90-day challenge was that I knew I had a lot to say in my head. And I also knew that the more I talked, the more refined it would get, the better it would get, the more I would start landing on what are the things that Erin uniquely wants to talk about, even if they're not unique concepts. And so I'd keep myself in this moment of, it's okay if today sucks, because over the course of 90 days, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get more refined on my message. Just hit record or hit go live and just do it. So there was that. And then I wanted to prove to myself that I could make a commitment, and no matter how hard it was, push through my fears and do it. And so if I was feeling those fears on a given day, I would acknowledge them, I would feel them, and then I would say, this is why I'm doing it. And it didn't mean the fear went away. You just didn't necessarily see it. It's there, that outer versus inner journey is so important, because you can go back and look at 90 days and you'd have no idea the turmoil. And yet the turmoil was exactly why I needed to be doing it. And what kept, like, I'm glad it was so hard. If it was so hard, it wouldn't have been meaningful.
Yeah, Erin, that sounds like you. Like that, when I think about you, there's things that I'm afraid to bring up in front of you because I'm like, oh, she sees the turmoil that I'm going through, or she's like, that won't give you enough turmoil. Like, go do the thing, you know.
That's more it.
That's more
go make it harder.
Go make it harder. Go that's one of the reasons why I'm so appreciative to be on this journey with you. You know, like, so I'm so appreciative to be on the field with you here, because like that really feels it. And you know, there's something you're saying here. I know we both work with impact entrepreneurs and people who are out there like making an impact, and some people who are making impact through their organization or through their family, like whatever it is, people who are they're doing something beyond themselves. And what I heard from you was you tap back into what that was beyond you. You had two whys that were there. I also heard that you did something where you gave yourself freedom, and I think it comes up a lot in the impact world here, which is like, how do I measure this? What are my metrics? What are my metrics here? How can I know that I'm making impact? How do I know what to do? Then and this is to me like huge. Like, you freed yourself of that, and you said, "Let me just do the work."
Yep, totally. Fuck the metrics.
Yeah, and let me just do what I'm here to do.
And that just, it connected me more to what I wanted to talk about, which I think also probably my authenticity was showing more. People were resonating with my topics more because it wasn't about me thinking and trying to project onto others what they might want to hear or need to hear. It was me connecting with me and saying, how can I love on my people? I actually got that quote from my coach. She says, how can I love on my people? And I've stolen that because it's such a powerful thing. If I sit here and go, how can I love on my people today? It's such a different world than how can I look good on live today? Or how can I get the likes or whatever metric today?
Yeah, I'm like, honestly, like, Outliers, Trailblazers, like, there is so much in there. And I would encourage you to like just pause what you're doing right now and just like be with that question. How can you love on your people? If you're leading a team, how can you love on your people? If you're an entrepreneur that's has customers and clients and so more than that, how can you love on your people? If you're, an activist that's out there, how can you love on your people? And really allow that space to come in. There's a lot that's in here, in what you just said here, and I think that this is one of the biggest things that keeps people from going on the full journey of Outlier to Trailblazer, because it's another way of fitting in. What do you want from me? Great, I'll kind of give you what you want, and maybe then you'll accept me and you'll like me and all those other things. And like, this conversation right now is a result of me getting closer to that myself. I'm like, oh, you know what? I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do. I'm happy. I'm thrilled. I've picked up a lot of tools and everything, but I came here to do something, and by golly, I'm doing it, and I'm going to do it my way. And this is what feels fun. This is what feels interesting. I want to expand my community by showing people who, like, the most important people in my life, and being able to help elevate your platform, and also give us a chance to still show what's really real in life, what's really real along the journey. So I want to thank you, Erin. I want to thank you for slowing down and being in day 13 with me, because
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish more of us who are doing these journeys could be sharing our day 13s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a lot as an outlier to Trailblazer. And so often it's hard to know that we're not alone in some of our day 13s.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, that's why I do this. And if you know anyone, or any of you know anyone that is in the middle of a day 13 or is ready to start day 1, like, that's why we do this here. Like, I'd love to share that.
Yeah.
So that now brings me to a fun part. We're talking outer and inner journey. We've been looking at the past parts here. And now we have about 15 minutes here, which is more than enough time for something powerful and great to take place, right? But I love to look at the outer and inner journey that you're going on now, where you might be in the middle of day 400 without really even knowing it, right? So let's make this real. Let's bring it into the real world, real time for you right now, Erin. I'd just love to serve right here. And I think that the question is for me that I have for you is, what would make this time truly magical for you? You bring out the magic for everyone else. If we were going to bring magic for
Mm.
you, what would we need to talk about?
Mm. So an inner journey that I'm struggling with right now is um, a fight between my head. I think it's a fight between my head and my heart. I'll actually have to think about that at some point, but it's the new decade. And I have very much moved out of the realm of concrete goals because they get me out of my heart. They get me out of service. So I move more towards visions and sort of, we've talked about impossible goals. Yet I have found myself struggling with the deep knowing and pushing others towards impossibility, and it being a place to come from as opposed to a place to get to. And yet I've found myself resistant to setting any visions because I'm afraid I'm going to get too attached to them as a get to, and that I won't be able to hold on to the come from as the way. And speaking of failure, there have been times where I've set unrealistic quote unquote goals or visions for myself and said, I'm just going to come from there. I'm not going to get there. But then if I don't get there, I beat myself up. So I'm wondering if we can explore somewhere where I can get to a vision, or maybe I don't get to a vision, let go of the resistance to a vision so that I like the idea of a North Star that guides me. I don't want to operate from a place where it's just literally every day I see what shows up. I think that's really powerful. I think both things are important, kind of having the guiding vision and the could come from and the day-to-day, how I'm letting things unfold.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say a place to like come from versus to get in there, right? What does coming from mean in your words? I know what it means to me, but what does it mean to you?
There's kind of two ways it shows up for me. One is very much the way Rich Litvin talks about it, is you start showing up as if that you are that person, right? So he's talked a lot about being a certain level of revenue type coach, right? Or he said, I'm mobilizing $100 million to feed starving children. And when you say I'm doing that, you start showing up more powerfully, you take bolder risks. So there's that. There's also in my own philosophy, there's an idea of high intention towards a goal with low attachment to the outcome. So it's a come from in the sense of you have high intention, it gets you in motion, it gets you into action, but you have to let it go of attachment to that being the place you get to. So I really, really want to go to Mars, but like if I land on Saturn, that's cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
Those are my two ways of come from.
Okay. High intention, low attachment. All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep.
I find myself curious. I'm not using your language here, but we might be able to bring it into that language there. I found myself really curious. What are you committed to right now?
Nothing. Other than my current clients, nothing. I think internally, I'm committed to safety and self-preservation, if that makes any sense. I'm strongly committed to, and I know some of the part of the not wanting to set a vision is in as much as I've moved towards being a badass, and you can see the badassery on my outside, the inner journey is I question myself all the time in terms of, am I really the person to do these things? Am I capable? Am I smart enough? Am I gritty enough? Am I whatever comes up on a daily basis, right? Am I enough? So what I'm feeling is this commitment to preserving myself from finding out that I'm not enough for these big visions.
Yeah. On that there, Erin, my first inclination is like to not go forward with the vision, but actually take some time first to go back to in a sense, I'm like, wow, this whole conversation here might have been really serving to you, to go back over the last 2 to 3 years and really spend some time owning the things that you've done, owning the experiments that you've done, owning the like what it is that you've created at this point, such that like you have more ammunition to work with, or more things in your toolbox to go with, to not just, how do I say it? I get to like, let me know how, if this is real or not, all right? How much this lands or not, but I get the sense of like, you keep pushing yourself forward, and each time you're pushing yourself forward, you're like, this is really cool. But at the same time, it's almost like, I'm going to keep moving forward without like, how do I say it? Without ever having arrived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's pieces of that resonate. I've been working a lot on celebrating where I've come from, and it's helped. I'm not there to where I want to be yet. What just landed for me as you said that is, I'm really good at looking back. I have become more good at looking back lately. I've been thinking forward, and I'm good at pushing myself forward. I am not great at acknowledging just where I'm at, and that where I'm at is always changing. And that I can't see my enoughness that from the future, from the current map of the world I have now. Not that my enoughness will change. Let me rephrase that, because I don't believe enoughness changes. But I can't see my capabilities, my brilliance, the things I'm going to do from the map of the world of who I am today, because there's so many things in the territory beyond that I will be discovering as I go. It's allowing me to feel even more like unattached to a vision, actually. Like, I'm going to set a vision, but the map is going to expand and the territory is going to expand. And really, I may start going towards Mars and end up in Andromeda. So, yeah, it's more of the acknowledging the where I am now versus the where I've come from or where I'm getting to.
Where are you now?
Constantly creating a new map of my world. And right now, this year in 2020, taking more time to land, because I do push hard, more time to arrive. It's been some feedback I've heard from a few other people. So I'm speaking of ands, when we talked about gender, one of the ands I'm really trying to play with this year is, how do I keep pushing forward on my visions and my dreams and doing that exponential growth, and slow down at the same time and let things sit and land and get embodied, so that pushing of myself forward is not from a like intellectual space, but I've got it everywhere space.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this, like, you've used this word a couple different times in the last few minutes, which is push, right? Like, you're like, how do I push myself? How do I push others into to this here? Like, instead of pushing myself forward, like, and there's this sense here where it's like, I just, honestly, as someone who knows you, I feel like you might be done with that. That might have served you, but like, I'm just like, I wonder what it'd be like if you could just like be free to simply do,
I have to throw out my day 13 spreadsheet.
Yeah. In some way, shape, or form. Like, and what would that be for you right now? Like, so if you're noticing here, I love to play with the abstract and like just make it concrete. What would the day 13 spreadsheet be for you? What's the thing that you're committed to, right? Like, you were committed to keeping the metrics. You were committed to all those things. What's the thing that you need to throw out right now?
It's a great question. I'm slowing myself down because I've thrown out a lot in the last few, even just this week. I've been really working intentionally.
Take your time.
Mm. I mean, there's definitely the abstract. I need to throw out the pushing. Um, I will accelerate without the push. Um, I'm actually going to throw out the worry about setting a vision. I actually need to throw that out.
Yeah.
I have one that I set. I'm not going to erase it. I'm also not going to worry about if it's the one.
Yeah. I think that's like, there's an element in here that just feels like just like allowing some freedom on that. Like, I find this a lot with my clients who are just super high performers, like outliers, and that do push forward or move forward. Right. And the thing is that like, there's never a vision that's big enough. There's never a vision that literally, there's never a vision that can contain you. That's the thing. And like I like to use the vision elements as like, you know, certain milestones to help pull us out and pull us forward there, and letting the vision do the pulling versus you having to do the pushing, you know. But there's something in here where I'm like, I feel like you like having a container for you to be able to play in is far like more meaningful, because your vision will shift in a month, 6 months, a year. Like there's no containing Aaron, you know? So that's why I was curious about your commitments, right? And what you're committed to. Right now I'm hearing you're committed to safety, you know, and that's a big commitment for you. And there's elements in here that when I think about going into the next year and stepping up your level, I'm always thinking about like I'm not very big on the next steps. I'm like, how do we make these level jumps consistently, and well, not even consistently, but regularly? And one of the things that's really shown up for me has been stepping up your commitments as well, leveling up your commitments. An example of this here is like we're having these conversations where I'm now meeting with people, I'm coaching, and I'm like, okay, I'm committed to doing this. But I'm like, I got to do it every single day for 90 days or for like 100 days. I remember telling you in our mastermind, and everyone was like, what? No. And like, these are people who are like, they are impossible people. Like they do impossible things on a regular day. And for me to have like 5 people that I really respect that have gone off and done things that are even more amazing than I have, to go out and say, hey, I'm going to do a podcast where I'm coaching someone new every single day for 5 days a week, and to get so much resistance and pushback, I'm like, booyah. Like, I must be on to something. I must be on to something. But it's changed my level of commitment. Like the level of commitment that I had beforehand was, I'm realizing just how much more creativity I'm getting, like the visions that are coming out from there. It's boundless now. It's like there is, but I know that I'm committed to talking to trailblazers. I'm committed to showing the inner journey that accompanies the outer journey. I know that I'm committed to really leading this tribe as opposed to talking about leading this tribe. And I'm committed to like spending, especially right now, and my commitments change, but while I'm committed, I'm fully in it, right? I'm committed to like really showing up and letting out the vision that I've always wanted to have, that I've always wanted to bring out into life. I'm like just doing it now, you know? And there's an element there that has caused me to go out and take this idea that was going to be a paid program and basically just put it in my Facebook group right now. You know, this thing that I was going to do and say like, everyone's going to, and just bring it out and say like, I'm just doing the work. And what that's caused me to do is now to think of brand new programs, and how if this paid thing is now coming out as what I'm just doing because that's the work that needs to get done. Now I've been flipped up and I'm like, whoa, well now what's going to be the paid thing? And it's been game changing for me.
That's awesome. That's one of the beauties of coaching is, rather than asking powerful questions, giving them more powerful questions to live into. And you just gave me a very powerful question to live into, which is, what's my next level commitment? I don't have an answer right now. I'm glad I don't, because I'm gonna let that arrive. I'm gonna let that sit. You've hit something on the nail though. I'm not committed to safety in my daily life. I take a lot of small risks with the way I experiment. One of the things I asked my coach this year to help me do was fail epically, because I need to I need to define what ethically looks like first, but I need to take myself up another level out of safety. So that is one thing I know I'm committed to, is finding a way to really fucking fail this year. And then when you have me on this podcast again and you ask me about failure, I won't have any trouble telling you about that time.
Awesome. Yeah. Have fun with it, and it doesn't mean you, like, I think, it doesn't mean you need to blow safety out of the water. Like, to me, the part that would be really great is when you're able to come and tell me about how you failed, like, in and kept safety, or how the two of them are able to live in the same world,
Totally.
Yeah.
That's another and. Thank you. Another and for me to plan to. Yeah. Appreciate that.
I appreciate you, Erin. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I love that you talked about living into that question. So we'll wrap up here with that question here. And I want to just thank you for showing up so fully here, for taking us on your journey, and for playing the Outlier to Trailblazer game. You're one of the people who I really consider a peer, and one of the people who helps grow me without having to push me. Seeing you do 90 days has made me think about things. Like, you're just you playing the game is enough. So I'm really excited to see how else you want to play this game, because you're taking us on journeys regardless.
Don't worry, it's coming. And you're going to be pulled along the journey with me. And you're going to keep pulling and pushing me as well. So likewise, on the mutual playing hard and learning from each other.
Awesome. Erin, one last thing. If someone wanted to follow up with you or stay in your world, how can they go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so I can send you the link to my Impact Entrepreneur Launchpad community on Facebook. And they can probably easily find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And I can also send my website.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Erin. I'm looking forward to what we create.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's keep that magic going.
All right. Have a great one, Niiamah.
Bye.
Bye.